The Green Bay Packers just got an unexpected boost within the NFC North. In fact, it's one of their biggest rivals, the two-time reigning NFC North champions. Although you hate to see injuries and you hate to see guys leave this league and retire early, this is a huge update that was just announced. The Detroit Lions, Frank Ragnow, their center, announces an early retirement from the NFL after 7 seasons, 7 productive seasons. You're looking at one of the better centers in the league when you start talking about what Frank Ragnow was able to do with the Detroit Lions front. He was one of their leaders on that offensive line. This is a huge blow to the Detroit Lions. Not only do they lose their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator, and then other coaching staff, now they suffer another big blow, and it happens to come at their center. And one man's loss is another man's gain. And the Green Bay Packers are looking at this situation as, okay, well, this is how do we prepare now for the Detroit Lions when we start talking about pass rush and putting pressure on their quarterback and all of those types of scenarios. Okay, so you take a look at this Detroit line offensive line. The Detroit Lions ranked as, one of the league leaders last year. And in fact, they had the top spot for the majority of the season, led by Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow. Frank Ragnow, again, announces his retirement. And you're looking at the second highest PFF score on that Detroit line offensive front there at an 88.8. Okay, so you look at Frank Ragnow and his run blocking PFF score of a 90.8. This dude he knows how to do it. He knows how to get the job done. One of the better centers in the league. So how does this affect the Detroit Lions? Well, who's his replacement? Well, as of right now on their depth chart, you're looking at Graham Glasgow. Overall PFF score of a 57.9. You take a look at that run blocking rate of a 57.8 as opposed to Frank Ragnow's 90.8. That's huge. That's a big difference. And Jeff Hafley's looking at this, I'm sure, chomping at the bit to be like, okay, we're going to be sending some pressure and it's going to be coming up the gut, up the center. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Detroit Lions do. Of course, you got a lot of off-season yet to find that replacement. But as of right now, Graham Glasgow is that replacement for them. So how does this affect the Packers? Okay, so when you start talking about most improved NFL offensive lines this offseason, of course, you hate to see the picture right there. Everybody hates the Bears. And you've got the Chicago Bears going out there, Ben Johnson as their coach. They've added a lot of offensive line help. In fact, you're looking at one of the worst offensive lines the last season. They add Joe Thuney, who's a 2-time All-Pro, Jonah Jackson, who's had some success in this league. You add those two guys, and then you add a guy that I really wanted in Green Bay, and Drew Dolman, one of the best centers in the league. In fact, he was PFF's 5th highest graded center. And then you've got Frank Ragnow being certainly one of those guys who's right up there as one of the best centers in the league. So you're looking at the Chicago Bears front 5, who's going to protect their quarterback, open up the run game, all of that. They went out there and addressed that issue. In fact, the Minnesota Vikings also did. They're number 2 on the list as most improved offensive lines this offseason. They add Will Fries and then Ryan Kelly, a guy that I really wanted in Green Bay as well. If we weren't able to get Drew Dolman, I was looking at Ryan Kelly saying, hey, man, this absolutely makes sense. He signed a 2-year, $18 million deal. You could have gotten him for cheap. Ryan Kelly is a very successful center in this league. The Minnesota Vikings were able to capitalize, but you're looking at the Detroit Lions, who are now sitting with this huge announcement with 7 years in the league. Frank Ragnow, leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts here. Again, you hate to see a guy go down, especially because of injuries and all that stuff, and a guy for his career to end early. Green Bay Packers are not a stranger of that type of news, but again, you hate to see it. But one man's loss is another man's gain, and the Green Bay Packers are certainly going to benefit from a big blow like this, especially on one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in all of football. This certainly takes them down a notch. So there's a lot of things working against the Lions that they're going to have to overcome. Last year was injuries and all of that. And now they're having to deal with losing their offensive line, losing their defensive line, or OC, DC, and other coaches. And now you got Frank Ragnow on the way out as well. Leave your comments. And as always, go Pack Go.